Hey YouTubers, welcome back. Thanks for watching. Today I'll be showing you how to replace the ignition module on your Stihl TS400 concrete saw. The symptoms you may get when your ignition module is going bad is you're going to get intermittent spark. Sometimes the saw may work when it's cold for a bit and then just die out completely. So you may have intermittent spark like I mentioned, or you may have no spark at all, period. You can stick your saw on the side like that to work. It will be much easier, and you're going to need to remove this side cover here, and there's 4 Torx screws number T27. Once you've got all the screws loose, the cover will just come off. And here's where the ignition coil is, right here, and there's 2 Torx screws number T27 holding that in place. Now you can lift up the ignition module out of its place. Now you can disconnect this wire here. Now you'll have to remove the spark plug wire as well. Just pop out the grommet here. So now just turn the coil counterclockwise and pull. So I've got a new ignition coil from Stihl here, and it's part 4223 400 1303. You can also buy aftermarket coils like this on eBay for like $30 with shipping. This coil here cost me $95 Canadian plus tax. There's the insides here. It's almost like a little circuit board in there. So now it's time to install the ignition module, and all you're going to need for that is an old business card. Now put the spark plug wire in the new ignition module and turn clockwise. Screw it in till it's tight. Once the wire is tight, push down the grommet. Now grab the coil and reinsert it in there. And reconnect the switch wire over here. Make sure it's really tight on there. Now reinstall the Torx screws here and there, but don't tighten them all the way. Now reinsert the spark plug wire in its groove over here. Now what you need to do is insert a business card between the flywheel and the ignition module and bring the magnet right to the ignition module. So that's going to be your space between the flywheel and the ignition module there. Now you can tighten up the 2 Torx screws, and they are number T27. Make sure that both screws are really tight. Now that both screws are tight, you can remove the business card, just move the flywheel, and that's it. So now you can see that you have a nice gap between the ignition module and the flywheel. It's perfect. So now you can put this cover back on and just retighten the 4 Torx screws number T27. Make sure all 4 screws are really tight. So now that we got the ignition module reinstalled, the next thing to do is to check for spark and remove the spark plug to do that. You'll have to take off this cover first. Now reinstall the spark plug in a spark plug cap. Make sure that the switch is on. Now to check for spark, you got to make sure that the spark plug is grounded to the metal on the part of the engine. This is all plastic, so if you just touch it here, it's not going to work. So to do that is I use a T-wrench, or you can use a screwdriver. Touch the metal of the engine with the screwdriver, and then ground the spark plug to the screwdriver. So this will create a good ground between the engine and the spark plug. Turn off the lights and we'll pull it over and see what happens. And that's beautiful spark. Now just take that off and reinstall the spark plug. If you're wondering what kind of spark plug to put in there, it's an NGK BPMR 7A. And here's the spark plug up close. And I just put a new plug in this saw. And now let's start it up to make the final test to make sure everything's good. I'm going to use the decompression valve to make it easier to start just by pushing down. So it runs good now. I'm pretty happy with that. Now you probably noticed when it's full throttle, it's kind of rev limited. Here's what I'm talking about. So the engines on these saws are rev limited, meaning that the RPMs will only go to a certain point so that the saws last longer, because they do work hard in masonry and cutting rocks. So this will surely extend the life of the saw. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.